Hello guys, welcome to the second installment of Social Studies Simple Solution. We are looking at lesson 2 right now. Okay, so as you can tell, lesson 2 had a really hard time at the copier. We cannot do anything with this map because it's all blacked out. So a couple of options here. If you are on a device and it will allow you to open another window, you can pull up a Google image of a United States physical map, and the word physical is right here if you're not sure how to spell it. Okay, so you can look up a physical map of the United States in another window, or I brought my handy dandy physical map right here that we can look at together. So I'll give you a couple seconds if you're going to pull that up in a new tab before we get started. All right, guys, so if you remember from lesson 1, Simple Solutions always puts in bold type any new vocabulary words. And when I see a new vocabulary word in bold, I always like to highlight or underline the definition. So if you have a highlighter at home, make sure you have that. If you don't have a highlighter, you can just underline with a pen or pencil. That is absolutely fine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hop into our second passage here, and it's all about physical maps. So there are many different maps, different types of maps. A physical map shows mountains, rivers, lakes, deserts, and other landforms or physical features. So that gave me the definition of a physical map, so I'm going to highlight the entire second sentence. So let's do that now, and if you don't have a highlighter, you can certainly underline, that is fine. Okay, so now I know the definition of a physical map. All right, color is used to show elevation. Mountains and other high elevations are often shown in shades of brown. Darker shades of brown are used for higher elevation. Green is used to show low elevation. Valleys and other very low elevations are dark green. Lakes and oceans are blue on a physical map. So if you look at this map here, I've got all kinds of brown going on over here on the western side of the United States, and according to Simple Solutions, brown shows high elevation. So think of something that would put you up high. So typically when we're looking at this kind of map and looking at those higher elevations, we're typically looking at mountains and mountain ranges and things like that. So on the kind of other end of that spectrum, oh, and notice the high elevations here. We have the Appalachian Mountains right here that go right through Kentucky. But on the other spectrum, when we see green, that's lower elevations, okay? So the darker the green, the lower the elevation. So I see a lot of dark green here around Louisiana and Texas, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, all along the coast. We typically have beaches here on the coast, so we know that beaches are really close to water, so we know that those are going to be lower elevations, right? So green, low elevation; brown, high elevation. Okay, so number 1 says, on the map, draw a ring around a mountain range or a very high elevation. I know that's going to be kind of difficult for y'all to do because the map is blacked out. But just note that on the western side, we have all types of mountains over here. We have the Appalachian Mountains on the east side, okay? So just keep that in mind. And then you can draw an L on a very low elevation. We said all of this down here is that dark green, very low elevation. We can come up on the eastern coast. Also very low elevation, okay? All right, number 3, we've kind of talked about this a little bit. Almost all of the coastal areas are green. That lets you know that coastlines have We have to choose one, high or low elevations. And so when we're talking about coastal areas, and I circled that word because maybe you haven't seen it before. When I'm talking about the coast, I'm talking about where our country kind of ends and runs into water, right? So here we have the East Coast, which kind of runs into the Atlantic Ocean. Down here, we have the Gulf Coast, which is where our country meets the Gulf of Mexico. Over here, we have the Pacific Coast, which is where our country meets the Pacific Ocean. Okay? And so those areas around the coast, I see a lot of green, okay? A lot of dark green. So I know that those are low areas of elevation. So for number 3, you need to circle low. Okay? Number 4, a peninsula is a piece of land with water on 3 sides. It is attached to a larger body of land. So draw a W on a large peninsula on the west coast of America and draw an E on a large east coast peninsula. So I will give you guys a little hint. If you look at your map here, and it's okay that it's blacked out, you can see 2 peninsulas, 2 pieces of land that are surrounded by water on 3 sides, okay? So I will point one out to you. I think that we all know which state this is. This is Florida, okay? And Florida is a peninsula. Do you see how there's water on 3 sides of Florida? But it's also connected to the larger body of land here in the United States. So I'm going to put an E right here on Florida because that's a peninsula on the eastern side of our state, or I'm sorry, of our country. So I'm going to put an E right there. And now if you look over on the western side of our country, there is another peninsula. Once you've located it, put a W there to indicate that it's on the west side of our country. And you should have a W right here. That is another peninsula surrounded by water on 3 sides, but also connected to a larger piece of land. Okay, number 5, an effect is what happened. The cause tells why it happened. Write C for cause and E for effect. So take a minute or 2, read those 2 statements, tell me which one is the cause and which one is the effect. And there is a clue word for the effect, so look out for that clue word. Okay, so for number 5, you should have the cause as the colonists wanted to be free from British rule. So I'm going to put a C right here. And then the effect is therefore colonial leaders wrote the Declaration of Independence. That clue word right there, therefore, tells me that it's the effect. So I'm going to put an E. You should have C-E. Okay, number 6. Which landform has tall, steep walls that may have a river at the bottom? So maybe you're not sure about this one, but there are certainly a couple that you can eliminate. So I know that a mountain is probably not the answer here, okay? So I'm going to eliminate that one. We just talked about peninsula. We know that that's a piece of land with water on 3 sides, so that's not the answer. So now we're left with delta and canyon. So if you're still not sure, you can go to your glossary. Let's see here.